All right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are excited to have you here with us. We hope you'll invite your family and your friends. And if you have college students in your household, invite them. This is going to be epic if they're really listening. This is really going to help them and help them as they choose careers and majors. Even if you have a middle schooler, this will help a middle schooler start to think about what am I doing and how do I go to the next level with whatever ideas I have. So thank you all for joining us tonight. I am so excited to once again introduce to you Louwendy Jenkins. She was here with us in July and just kind of blew us out of the water with ideas. And for some people, it was assurance for how do I move forward? Like, I have an idea, I don't know what to do. And she really broke it down for us. So tonight, we're going to have a power chat. So we're going to go back through it and we're going to talk about some of the things that I think will actually help catapult some of you to that next level. Because my guess is some of you are stuck. I think I've heard that some people are actually stuck. They started and they heard what she said, but they need a little shot in the arm. So this is what we're going to do tonight. So Louwendy Jenkins, welcome. Thank you again for joining us. Let's get started. Talk to us.
Okay.
Talk to us. Talk to us.
Well, I am so happy to be here. I
Awesome.
had so much fun last time. I really did. I
Good,
really
good,
enjoyed
good,
myself.
good. And clearly the comments, and I've had people, say, "Hey, I can't let me know when she's coming back on." So you really help people, and that's what this show is about: is helping people be able to get to whatever that idea is, purpose is, and fulfill it. So,
Right,
so
right.
we're gonna jump right in. Everybody, the concept creator is here.
All right, all right.
So let's just do a recap. So give
Okay,
us a recap of where we're going and how we get there.
okay. Where we're going and how do we get there? Okay, I guess I can start with my journey. Meaning, I do believe the last time we spoke, I was telling you that last year I sat around my house. I was sitting on my couch. I was eating potato chips and cookies and watching movies. I wasn't doing anything. And for those of you who don't know, I'm retired. So I could afford to sit back and do nothing. But I gained some weight. And then my body was like, wait a minute now. You know, you're not supposed to be doing this. You better get up and do something. So this year, the earlier part of this year, I did what anybody would do in my situation. Okay, Louwendy, number one, you know better. You know better. Because we as people, we have to live with purpose.
Right.
And once my body started talking to me and said, you know better than this, you better get up. That's exactly what I did. I got up and I went to London. I went to
Oh,
Chicago. I
nice.
went to Las Vegas.
Okay.
So when I got back home, the next thing I know, a half a year had come and gone. So in July, I was like, okay, this year is almost over. 6 months, Valerie. 6 months had come and gone. So when July had got here, I was like, okay, Louwendy, what do you want to do for yourself? And this is where the planning and everything come in, everybody. And one of the things I stressed last time was this: don't make your life difficult. Planning your life and the things that you want to do is easy. You start with the 5 W's and the how.
Five W's and a how.
The 5 W's and the how. And that's exactly what I did. So in July, the first thing I said was, what? Louwendy, what do you want?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's number one, is what do I want? And then the second thing was what I don't want. So what I did was I focused on those two things first. What does Louwendy want for herself in 2025? Because I know I only had 6 more months left in this year. So I asked myself, what do I see myself doing in 2025? What do I really want to do? and what I don't want to do. So I started there, Valerie. And then a second thing was why. Your why is very important. Your why is going to keep you motivated. Your why is going to keep you going. So I said, why do I want what I want? Your what and your why. So when July came, those are the things that I focused on. And so when I had my goal, when I knew what I wanted, I knew what I didn't want, and I knew my why. So when August came, I was like, okay, I'm going to give my all in August. So if you was watching my videos, when I was taping, when I was doing things, I kept saying, I'm going to give it my all in August. I'm going to give my all in August. So that's exactly what I did in August. My goal, and I gave it my all in August. And girl, next thing you know, August was gone.
Wow.
And so so I said, okay, September. August, I planned. Okay. So September, I have to be steadfast in September. Steadfast with my goal so I can keep going, so I can keep trying. I have to be steadfast. So steadfast in September helped me to keep going. It helped me with my progress. It helped me with my goal. And now look at this. It's October. It's October, Valerie.
Yeah.
And because when you plan a goal, you see progress. And because I was steadfast, I expect opportunities to come in October. I expect for the world to open up and say, listen, Louwendy, we see your dedication. You have purpose. You have drive. We're going to give you something for this. So opportunities in October. And that's exactly where I am right now. Opportunities in October. So what you have to do is you have to have a plan. And remember the last time we talked, I know I kind of somewhat simplified things, but I'm telling you, your goals in your life, they really can be simple. They're not easy because the more you progress, challenges are going to come, difficulties are going to come, but the plan itself is simple. Who, what, when, where, and why.
Yeah.
And your how is going to come.
Yeah.
Your how is going to come.
So I think what stands out to me about that is when you start, I believe in positive affirmations, you got to start talking to yourself, and I don't know, post it on your refrigerator, whatever. But I think by you deciding that, oh, for October is going to be opportunities. And the more you say that or put it in front of you, I think that's a great way to keep yourself motivated. At least I think that would be helpful for me. So I love that idea.
Oh, definitely, honey. And girl, when October came, well, at the end of August, because I was telling somebody, what am I going to do for October? And the word opportunity came, because if I'm planning and if I'm believing and if I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do, then I expect the universe to work with me, because I am a co-creator in my life. So I expect things to happen to me. I expect good things to happen to me. So I expect opportunities to happen. And that's exactly what happened, Valerie. That's exactly what happened. Things began to happen. People began to come into my life, and people began to notice what I was doing, and opportunities began to come.
Yeah. And I think this speaks to the power of our minds.
Right.
If my mother used to say, well, if you think you're gonna fail the test, then yeah, you're probably gonna fail it. So you might as well. This doesn't. You still gotta study, but you need to begin to say the positive. Feeding yourself positive affirmations is what I hear you're saying. I mean, to me, that is what you're saying. That's actually working. You are testifying to the fact that it actually works. And we have got to start thinking differently so that we can get better results. That negative thinking is detrimental to us. I really, really appreciate that. That's a couple things that I need to change up in my daily routine, and you have really given me some ideas. I love it. I love it. So with your what's and your how, is there an order when you're like, if you're planning for this upcoming year, is there an order that you answer those questions?
Well, the very first thing is what?
Okay.
Because if you remember the last time we talked, it was all about your what.
Hmm.
How in the world can you get the things that you want if you don't know what you want?
Hmm.
So the very first thing you have to do is you have to get clear with yourself.
Yeah.
What do you want? And I know back in the past, I was constantly told, what do you want? What do you want? But now, since I'm older, Valerie, I also ask myself what I don't want. I
Mm.
don't focus on the things that I don't want, but I definitely make sure I understand the things that I don't want. So when I see it, I'm like, no, I don't want you. No, you can't be come knocking on my door. So I recognize some of the things that I don't want. So when I see it, I'm like, no, you need to go somewhere else because I don't want you in my life.
Now, I think that's different. I don't know that just in general, this is a generalization,
Mm-hmm.
that people think about what they don't want. They think about what they want and how they're going to get there.
Right,
But I think there is value in addressing, well, this is what I don't want.
right,
You're not fixated on it, but
right,
you are saying, well, I need to stay away from that. And the other part for me is when we think about what we do want, sometimes people say, well, I know I shouldn't put that on the list because that's too far-fetched. That's too big. And I'm like, no, dream big.
right,
Dream big.
right.
And so when you do that, then to me, you give God an opportunity to help you, because He don't need to help you go in the kitchen and bake a cake and sell it. Like you got to dream big.
You got to dream
Dream,
big,
got to
right,
dream big.
right. And when you do dream big and things begin to happen and things begin to materialize in your life, you don't realize that your dream, which you thought was big, girl, when God started pouring things in and opening up doors, is much bigger than what you anticipated.
Always is, always
Right.
is. So
Mm-hmm.
I often tell, especially students, if you have an idea and you think, oh, that's not even a job. um you may be the one that create the job, because not all jobs are created yet. There are jobs or opportunities and ideas that are being birthed all the time. So don't forego your idea because you think, oh no, that doesn't even make sense. And I had to tell myself that, because I've had several dreams about things, about technology, and I'm like, okay, that doesn't make any sense. And then I chose to share with somebody very close to me, and that person was like, wait a minute. And so I'm like, okay, so I'm glad that I did, because I'd held that idea for almost a year, and I just felt like, okay, I think I should share it with this person because they have a technology mind. And so my whole thing is, folks, just dream. Take time to daydream.
Right.
Take
Right.
time to daydream.
Right.
So do you do that? Do you just take some time to just like, I mean, I take time to meditate and pray, yes, but I mean just daydream. Do you
Well,
do that?
if you really think about it, when you meditate, okay, remember people, prayer is talking to God. And remember, meditation is listening. Okay? So really, it's a combination of everything, because when you sit back and when you dream, what you're doing is you're reaching down inside of yourself and you're pulling out your desires. You're pulling out your wants.
Hmm.
You're
Yes.
pulling out the things that you want. So when you daydream, that's important because you're able to visualize and see what you want. And girl, when you see what you want in your mind, trust me, it can come to pass. You
Yeah.
can bring it into the physical world.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what it's all about, turning ideas into concepts and concepts into reality. You have to dream about it. You have to think
Right.
about it. You have to make it happen. Because
So
remember, everything starts in our mind first.
right.
Everything that you see, somebody created it because it was a thought first.
Right. So how often do you take time to, like, this whole, how you mapped out August to October, like how often do you do that, or is it just random that you do that?
Well, I have a routine.
Okay.
In the mornings when I get up, the first thing I do is I'm very grateful and I'm very thankful for waking up. And as the old people, you say, being in my right
Yeah.
mind. So when I get up and when I'm grateful and when I'm thankful, the next thing I do is I make sure I walk around my house and I'm just praying, thanking God for different things and talking about, telling, about my family. And then after that, because I'm praying, I'm talking to God. After that, I will sit still and I'm meditating so God can talk to me. And then after I finish meditating, I'm getting up and I'm saying affirmation. I have boards, girl, that I created years ago. I'll put them right there on my couch and I'm saying my affirmations every single day, you know? And one of my affirmation is my pledge that I used to had the kids in NTD to say back in 1989, girl. I am beautiful. I am unique. I am one of a kind. I will love and I will learn everything that I can, and then I give it all away because I know it's coming back to me.
Yes. Yes.
So I'll get up and I'll say affirmations, and then I put my clothes on and I'll go walking. And see, and when I'm walking, I'm talking.
Yeah.
I'm saying my affirmations. I'm still being grateful and thankful. And that's when I start telling myself, okay, what am I going to do today? What am I going to do today?
Yeah.
And then when I come back home, I write everything out.
So I know there are people who are probably saying, yeah, but I don't have that kind of time. I'm not retired. So what do you say to those people?
What excuse do you have? What excuse do you have?
Yeah.
Because Miss Valerie, honey, when I was working at the post office, sometimes 8, 10 to 12 hours, and me and my husband, we worked the night shift. So that means that when we got home, like at 7 o'clock in the morning, we had to do things around the house before we even bothered to lay down. And so by me working the post office for 8 hours, and then when I came home, especially during the summertime, that's when I had NTD. I had my job and I had my kids and I had my husband. So even though I am retired now, I tell you, you don't have an excuse because I was able to do everything that I still did with the job, with 3 kids, with the husband, and with the business. But you have to learn how to balance. I remember, Valerie, there were sometimes, girl, especially in the summertime, because that's when I had the program for the kids. Valerie, in the summertime, I used to work 2 days straight without any sleep. And on the third day, I would come home and I would get like 4 hours of sleep, but I was always up and I was always going. Remember, I was younger and I could do that. So my body was energetic. And remember, and when you're doing something that you love, girl, that adrenaline starts to kick in. And so you're up anyway. I remember when I was working at the post office, I used to drink coffee and Coke. Coffee and Coke. When I think about it now, I'm like, girl, what was you thinking? But the coffee and Coke would keep me up because I was on the night shift.
Yeah.
So there are no excuses because people do, and people will take time out to do whatever it is they want to do.
Yeah.
Period. Point blank.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So as you're talking, I'm thinking about the word discipline, because that's what it is. Like, you have to, even if you have a very tight schedule, you have to have the discipline to do it. And so there was a time when I was on a weight loss journey. This was years ago, and I was at the gym at 5:30 in the morning. Now you asked me to go to 5:30 now, and I'm like, what? But my time is a little bit more flexible now than it was back then. But my point is, I had to be disciplined. And what I'm finding is many times people lack discipline and don't want it. But if you really are trying to go after goals, and this is what I think I'm hearing you say, you really have had, yes, you've had balance, but you really have had discipline.
Right. But not only that, Valerie, you really have to know your why. Because if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, when you start to slack off, you will definitely slack off, and then you will lose the purpose of that goal.
Yeah.
But if you know your why is going to keep you going. Why do you want that particular thing? Because that's your motivation. Your why is your motivation.
Right.
Your why is your motivation.
Yeah. And I think and when people are trying to figure out how to be disciplined, you that's when you have to ask yourself, what don't you want? Because
Right,
if you don't get the discipline, you're gonna end up getting that other that what I don't want list. At
right.
least
And
that's what
that's
I think.
right. And that's when you have to learn how to say no to other people, because you can't go out in the street and just hang out for 2 or 3 hours like you used to. You
Yeah.
can't stop and talk on the phone to Betty for 2 or 3 hours. So there are a lot of things that you can cut out, because you have to remember, everybody has 24 hours in a day. And
Yeah.
then the question is, how are you spending your time? Because
Right.
your time and your energy is the most valuable asset you have. Not money,
Mm-hmm.
not
Hmm.
money, it's time and energy.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
those are two things that, you can't get your time back, because when your time is gone, it's gone.
Right. Yeah.
So how are you spending your time? Think
Yeah.
of your time like currency. How are you spending it? Who are you wasting your time on? Because you're not going to be able to get it back.
That is so good. I heard someone say this some years ago. You have to do what you need to do today so you can do what you want to do later.
Right,
You got to put the work. You have to put the work in.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And
That's
that's
really good.
right. And that's one of the things that I really am grateful for, because I did put in the work. I have done the things that I actually want to do. And now I am at that point in my life, Valerie, where I get a chance to choose what I want to do.
Yeah.
If I get up in the morning and if I don't want to do anything, I don't have to.
You don't have to.
I don't
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah. 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 Wow. 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 That's really good. Um so as we talk about taking those thoughts, that taking the time to meditate, do your 5 W's. Once we have done that and we get to the house, I want you to talk a little bit more about how we transition into the how part of the question.
Well, that's going to depend on your goal. And because with me, I have a 6 month goal, because I knew it was going to take a lot for me to accomplish what I want to accomplish. And see, and some goals are small,
Yeah.
but even though, because all goals can still follow the path of the 5 W's and the how. Because if you was doing a birthday party, because we was talking about birthday parties
Right.
earlier, so
Mhm.
that's what came to mind.
Mhm.
So if you was doing a birthday party for your 5 year old, okay, without even thinking about it, you're planning, and chances are you will probably start planning like a month before. You ask your baby, what do you want? Who do you want to be here? So you'll call up some parents. So you're planning for about a month.
Mhm.
That's a short-term goal. But
Right.
if you had a teenager, your teenager end up coming to you and say, hey, mom, for my birthday, I think next week I want to invite some friends over. So you got a week to plan. So what do? Because they're teenagers, you probably just have some pop and some pizza,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So that goal is short term, but it's still a what?
Yeah.
Who, what, when? You see what I'm saying? So it doesn't matter about your goal. It's the same. Because then what if you have a wedding? It's going to take you a year
Mhm.
to plan that party, to plan that event, to plan that goal. Every 5-year-old party, a teenage party, or either a wedding, it's still a party. It still follows the same rule, but they're short terms, and then it's a long term.
Right.
So it doesn't matter what it is, it still follows the same path.
Same path. Yeah.
How do you do what you do? You know how to do what you're doing depending on the goal, because you already know your what, you already know your why. The when comes in when you're planning. Is that me or you?
That's me.
Okay.
You're good. You're good.
your when, I mean your how, your when comes in with your how.
Mhm.
Okay? With your where. Those are the questions for your how. How am I going to do this? When am I going to do it? Where is it going to happen? And you know how to do the things that you're going to do because you're following a plan. Your who, what, when, where, and why. Your how will come.
The how will come.
The
Yeah.
how will come.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, it's about just being disciplined. And I was thinking about when I wrote the book, and initially people were saying you should designate a time in the morning and just do it at the beginning of the day. Well, what I found out is that didn't work for me. That didn't work. I am a mid morning person, and so that meant that mid morning, I needed to get myself together, do whatever I needed to do. And so, usually about 2 o'clock, I was ready to go. And that was my time. My
Right.
time was afternoon. So, I figured out the timing for what best fit for me. You
Right.
have to do that. And so, if I started writing about 2 o'clock, I could go to midnight.
Right.
But I because initially when I was doing 8 o'clock in the morning, I was just dragging. I was like, okay, I'm never gonna write this book if I keep doing this. And one day I said, I'm gonna wait. The schedule just wouldn't allow me to do it that morning. And then I went that afternoon and I was like, oh, I was typing. I mean, I was researching. I mean, I was really getting in. So deciding what your schedule is, should be, what it looks like is part of this process, in terms of being balanced and disciplined. I think those are the two words I'm holding on to tonight, is being
Right.
balanced and disciplined.
Right. And you also had, and you made a very good point too. We all have a biological clock where we are at our most creative. And I noticed for myself, when I get up at about 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning, because remember, for years I worked the night shift, so I was up anyway.
Yeah.
So when I get up, I know the early part of this year, that's when I told myself, I don't even have to set a clock or an alarm. I told myself, I said, okay, listen, body, we need to start waking up at about 3 o'clock in the morning. Because at 3 o'clock in the morning, I can get a lot done. And then when about time I start praying, meditating, and walking. So when I get back home, Valerie, it's about 8:30 in the morning. I have already accomplished a lot. And once I sat down to my computer and I start typing, if I am finished with a lot of things by noon, I am so grateful because half the day is gone and I have done so much. So my most creative time for me is early in the morning. To
Oh,
whereas I have a friend girl who's also a business partner, girl, she don't get started until like 9 o'clock at night because
oh,
that's when her most creative time is going. 9 o'clock. I can call her I can call her when I get up at about 3 o'clock and she's up.
wow.
So you also have to know when are you at your most creative time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm telling you, I figured it out. It took me a minute, but I figured it out. And when I did, I was running. And sometimes I would I would go to the library like 2 or 3 o'clock, and I would sit there until it closed. I'd go somewhere and get a snack or whatever, and then I'd shut it down at 9 o'clock, and then I'd go to IHOP because I knew coming to my house was
Right,
gonna take me out of my creative zone. I'd
right,
go to IHOP and I'd sit there to 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. But again, like you said, for me, I know that was my time. That's when I flow the best. And
right,
so yeah, so I think what you these nuggets that you're sharing with us by your own experience, I hope is encouraging people to that they're not too far from getting what they really want, but you got to add these parts in it. If you're stuck, you got to go back to the drawing board.
right.
What are the things that are what do you think the things are that get us stuck?
Well, let me say this first. One of the most important things that you can do for yourself is to trust yourself. It'll take time for those of you who don't. And most people say, well, I do trust myself. No, because if you trust yourself, you would listen to yourself. And when yourself tell you to do something, which is your soul, you wouldn't argue with your spirit.
Mhm.
Okay, understand this. You have your spirit, that knows all, that is all. Some of us call it the Holy Spirit. Some of us calls it God. Some of us call it energy. Whatever that thing is that you call, it's the truth. And it leads and it guides us. Okay? And then you have your soul. That's you, your thoughts, your emotions, your decisions. And when you battle with your spirit, there's a conflict. But when you work in harmony and understand that you are a co-creator in your life, everything goes smoothly. That's when you begin to trust yourself and you listen to yourself and you follow through. And a lot of times you may not understand a lot of things that's happening, but because you trust yourself, you'll follow through and you'll do it.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of times when people don't do it, that's come they always say, man, if I coulda, woulda, shoulda, man, I should have listened to myself. But when you learn how to trust yourself, you will definitely go far.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Yeah, that trusting, that part. And, even again, I just go back to the book because that's my experience. But there would be times where I would go at my time, my 2 or 3 o'clock time, and I didn't have anything. So I would write whatever thoughts I had, I'd put that on the paper, and then I'd sit there for a few minutes, and then I would move on and say, okay, well, I'll come back to this. But I never lost focus though. I was disciplined, and I was like, okay, I'm not gonna fight not having anything or not feeling like I don't have anything, because I know it's going to come. Gotta
Right.
say, just because I didn't have a whole 2 pages to write today doesn't mean I'm not coming back tomorrow. I am coming back tomorrow. I'm gonna meet myself here to work on this again. So yeah,
Right.
trusting yourself and trusting yourself through the process.
Right. And when you were talking, what came to mind for me is, you know, I would like to get in bed at least about 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay. But girl, yesterday, because I was in the zone and because I was on my computer and because I was being creative, because, the things that I want to accomplish for 2025, I have to learn a whole new program. I have to learn a whole new system. And because they have so many different type of softwares out now, I have to experiment. And so yesterday I found this one program and I was like, okay, okay, I think I kind of somewhat like this. And girl, I got so busy and I was creating and I was doing stuff. Next thing you know, girl, it was 11:26. And I know it because I looked at my clock. I was like, when the girl, go to bed, go to bed. And because I told my body to wake me up at 3 or 4 o'clock, I went to bed, Valerie, and I still got up at 3:30. I got up at 3:30 this morning.
Wow. That's
Right.
discipline.
That's discipline. But you have to also remember that is years of practice. That's years of trusting myself. That's years of understanding how the universe actually works. Okay. And when I say universe, I'm talking about God. When you know that and when things work for you, you work it.
Yeah.
You work that system because it's a system. And once you learn and once you understand, when you work it, it's going to work for you.
Yeah. 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 So, I mean, you you have given us a lot of things a lot of things for me to think about, and I hope our audience is really gleaning from this. And certainly, audience, if you have questions, feel free to send them, and we'll be happy to answer them. But I want to just revisit our last conversation about focus to execute. I think that's what we just talked about, and then plans to succeed, and then uh, enjoying the journey. So let's
Right.
just kind of recap that for me, if you will.
Okay. And girl, one of the reasons why I constantly tell people to enjoy the journey, and I believe I told this story before because this is part of my story when I watched the Oprah Winfrey show and Barbara Walters was on her show and she told Oprah, she said, Oprah, I've been around the world 3 times, but I haven't seen anything.
Mhm.
She said, so now since I'm retired, she said, I'm going to go back so I can enjoy my journey. And that's what happened with a lot of people, Valerie. They are so intense and focus on their goal and trying to get to that next step, to whereas they're not enjoying the journey. And that's what the enjoyment is. The enjoyment is in your journey, getting there. Because once you plan, you're going through the process of the execution.
Right.
You know? So
Right.
you're working your plan. And as you're working your plans, enjoy it. You know, whatever it is, because when you come against obstacles, it's like, oh my goodness. But years later, you're going to be able to tell that story. You know what happened when this happened?
Right.
You know what I did? That's a story now.
Right.
And that's how I tell people, it doesn't matter what happens in your life, it's going to be your experience. Because that's what life is. We are living life, people. We are humans.
Yes.
And we are living. So it doesn't matter what comes our way. One of the things that I always tell my students is this, and I believe I shared this with you. I tell my students, I have a different type of classes. And one of the classes, I tell my students, they came in, you know, everybody's sitting down and, you know, everybody's looking around and talking. I was like, you're not special. And of course, they looking around like, wait a minute, what you mean I'm not special? I said, you're not special. My mama told me I'm special. My coach told me I am too special. I said, you're not special because you're human. Anything that you go through in life, understand this, that somebody else has already gone through it. So you're not special. So when things happens to you in your life, understand somebody else has already gone through it. It's just that it's your turn. It's your turn. So you're not special. But on the flip side of that, you are special. Because there is nobody else like you. Right. Nobody else has your fingerprints. Nobody else have your exact DNA. You are a unique, irreplaceable part of the cosmos. Yes. So when they walk away, they understand that they are unique, that they are special. But when something begins to happen to them, they realize it's just my turn. Yeah. And so they won't beat themselves up, or they won't say, oh my God, why did this happen to me? No, it's just your turn. So right. It doesn't matter what happens to you. We all have trials and tribulations. You know, when people see me, they say, girl, you're always happy. You know, do things ever happen to you? Yes. But see, I understand the laws. When it happens to me, Valerie, I'm like, okay, it's my turn. How is Louwendy going to handle it? Because it's just a situation. Okay? Situations don't have life. We breathe life into situations. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You know, and a perfect example of that I always like to give, that's just like if you're going to work and if somebody cut you off and you say, I can't believe, you know, he cut me off. That sounds so this and that sounds so that. And you're mad and you're angry because you almost hit this guy. And then when you get to work, you're still fussing. You know what happened to me on the way to work? This guy almost ran into me. I can't believe this happened. And when lunchtime comes, you're still complaining. You know what happened? I can't believe this guy happened. It was in the black truck. And 5 years later, if you see a black truck, you're going to remember that. Say, man, I remember that time that black truck came and it did this. So you're drawing up that feeling. It's just a feeling because the situation has already happened. So you're still breathing life into something that happened years ago. And that's the same way if you have trauma in your life, understand that that situation has already happened. But whenever you bring it back up, and you remember those feelings, what you're doing is you're just bringing those feelings back into your life and you're feeling those feelings, but the situation has already happened. Yeah. But once you learn how to forgive it and let it go, when that feeling when that situation come back, you're not going to feel it. You're not going to be angry. It's not going to traumatize you. Yeah. You know, and that's how come I can bring up situations that happened to me because I learned that it was just an experience. It was my experience that happened. So now I can talk about it. Yeah. Yeah. And I think we have to be careful. And I see people do this all the time. Just give their emotions to things and people because it's not helping anything. So
And so I do this. This has happened to me recently where somebody pulled out in front of me or somebody was driving really slow. And then I realized that that person was an older adult. And I'm like, you know what, Lord? One day I'm gonna be old like that. I hope I don't drive that slow though. But there was no need. There was no need for me to give that energy. And if there is something in my life that becomes frustrating, driving or somebody cut me off, I'm over it. Like it's like, oh, that was really crazy. And then I'm like over it. And I'm not giving that. You cannot take up rent in my head. I
Right.
and I think people do that too much. And I think that's why people are stuck. That's one of the reasons.
Right, right. And people need to understand two things. Number one, you can only control yourself.
Yes.
One of the things that I learned long time ago, Valerie, is people are going to do what they want to do. And I cannot live anybody else's life.
Okay.
Girl, when my kids was young, I wanted to rule them. I wanted to do certain things. I wanted to tell them, I did tell them certain things, but I knew I could not live their life.
Right.
I only have one life.
Right.
I only have Louwendy life. The only thing I can do is I can suggest, I can advise, but one of the things I learned too is people are still going to do whatever it is that they want to do.
Yeah, they will.
We are all on our own personal journey.
Right.
So we shouldn't get mad, frustrated, or upset with somebody else because they are on their own personal life journey.
Yes.
And they can only control the things that they do.
Right. And we have to learn how to let things go
We have to
quickly.
learn how to let things
And
go.
it is a learning process.
Right, right,
Especially if you didn't grow up around people who did that, or you don't have friends that did, it is a process. But you have to start practicing. You have to start at some point. You got to
right.
let stuff go because if it's not gonna, it can be detrimental to you.
Definitely.
It can keep you from moving forward because your mind keeps, again, like you said, replaying stuff, and then that becomes attached to something else. And so then your mind is just out of control because you
Girl,
internalize so much stuff.
yeah, girl, because the human brain is something else. Because
Yep.
that's how come sometimes you can hear a song or you can see something and it'll bring a memory back.
Yep.
And if you're not careful, all of those old feelings will come back. And a lot of times, and this is something that I want you to remember too. A lot of times when our attitude change, because we could feel a certain way, and all of a sudden we're starting to get depressed or we feel down or something is going on and we're not quite sure what it is. It's because you heard something or you saw something and it triggered something in your brain. So a lot of times if you sit back and say, okay, when did my feelings change?
Yep.
This is when you talk to yourself.
Yes.
You have to talk to yourself, communicate with yourself.
Yes.
Because I was feeling fine like 30 minutes ago. What
Mhm.
happened? And I'm telling you, when you sit back and when you think, oh, you know what happened? It is your brain, your mind, it'll show it to you.
It will.
And then and once you understand, that's how come my feelings change. That's how come my emotions change.
Wow.
You are still in control to whereas you can change your emotions back.
That's right.
You are in control
You're
of
in
you.
control. That's right. So don't allow people and things to control you because, in essence, that's what you're doing. You're
Right.
allowing people and things to control your emotions. You got to take control of it. And
You
that,
have
that
to take
doesn't that
control.
doesn't mean if somebody does you wrong that you should be like, oh, they did me wrong. But you may need to address it or whatever, but don't linger with it. Don't try to move forward as quickly as possible. And I think that's true with just, it, that's true with traumas, it's true with grieving, it's true. And I I will be singing the song forever that I believe in counseling. I do. I at the point where I have seen somebody come out of their traumatic experiences or their grief or whatever, and then they were like a new person, and I have experienced that for myself. I'm like, oh no, I don't ever want to be in the place where something is heavy and holding me down so much that I can't function as myself. And I am, please know that I understand grief. I get, I been there, done that. So I'm not dismissing that people have feelings and they have emotions and grief and all of that kind of stuff. I'm just saying, just be diligent about trying to work through it.
Right.
Be diligent about trying to get to the next level, because again, to me, that's the reason that sometimes people are stuck, is because they are heavy laden with things. And again, please know, audience, that I understand grief, been there, done that. It's a real thing, and there's a process, so I
Right.
understand that. But at some point, I definitely encourage people to, yeah, try to figure out how am I going to move forward a little bit. I need to get out of this. I need to
Right.
get out of this.
Right. And I think, Valerie, if they remember what I said, and one of the reasons why I know it works is because I did teach this lesson to my grandkids about special, that you're not special and you are special. And I remember a couple of times with one of my grandsons, I called him and I said, I heard that you was kind of down because of, this, that, and the other. And he was like, yeah. I was like, well, you're not special. And he said, oh, yeah, I'm not special. He said, no, I'm not special. He said, I'm human. Things going to happen to me. I was like, right. And he snapped out of it just like that. Something just as small as remembering you're not special. It's your turn. So even though you are going through things, just remember that, oh, okay, wait a minute. I'm not special. I'm human. Things are going to happen to me.
Things
So
are
no
going.
matter what that thing is, better, because some people are literally going through devastating things
Oh
right
yeah.
now.
Oh,
Devastating
absolutely.
things. But just
Absolutely.
remember, somebody else has already gone through it. It's
Or
just that it's
worse.
your turn, or worse. It's
Hmm.
just that it's your turn. And how are you going to handle it?
How are you going to handle
That,
it?
that's what it boils down to. When
Yeah.
you sit down, whatever that thing is, people, just sit down and say, okay, it's my turn. How am I going to handle this?
Yeah. Yep.
How am I going to handle this?
Right.
Because somebody else has already been through it.
Yep. And we all have tribulations and trials, and I also think that's why we need to stay in community with each other. We need to be more connected than we are. Social media has allowed us to be more separate than ever, and so you need connectivity so that you don't have to go through everything by yourself. Yes, I think that again, we have situations that it's just gonna, things are going to happen. People gonna die. We're going to have all kinds of craziness to happen in our lives, but having people that you're connected to, that you can really talk to. And what I've noticed is a lot of people, like, they're just so closed that, and so while you're trying to eternalize that, the person standing next to you probably went through the same thing or something similar, or they know someone. So
Right.
don't be afraid to share. You can pick and choose who you share with, but don't try to internalize so much, and be open to, and I believe God will send you, if you really want, God will send you people. I know that's happened to me. I've had a friend to show up I hadn't seen in years, and showed up in my life, and I'm like, oh wow, that was we've just lost contact. Nothing happened, we just lost contact.
Right.
And it was right on time. It was right on time. I was able to help them, they were able to help me. And so again, I just encourage people to stay connected, to don't isolate. Don't isolate. And I understand times that you need to be by yourself because you need to clear your thoughts and all of that, but don't stay there, don't live there.
Right.
Yeah. Well, this has been we have almost talked an hour. This has been fantastic. Audience, if you have any questions, let's see if you have any comments, feel free to share them. Louwendy is going to come back about once a month, and we're going to have these power chats. The next time, what I like to do is, Louwendy, I like for a few of our guests to send in some of their questions as it relates to them trying to get their ideas to reality, but to send them in ahead of time so we can kind of look over them and really be ready to share some thoughts with some real live questions. So, audience, please feel free to do that. She'll be back the first part of November. I'll send that date out. I don't. We'll just determine the date, and I'll send it out. Any parting words before we go?
Yes, well, I would also like to make a suggestion to
Sure.
Valerie. Also have your guests to submit anything that any type of topic, because I could talk about practically anything,
Okay.
because I have like years of experience.
Okay.
That's what I tell my grandsons. I was like, I've been on this girl. I know when I went to Chicago, one of my grandsons, he's 15. He was like, I'm grown. I was like, boy, girl, you only been in this earth 15 years. You're not grown. You're still a teenager. You haven't gone through anything. I said the best time of your life is right now.
Yeah.
Right now, because you don't have any type of responsibilities except for just to go to school. Go to school, And so I said, I've been on this earth for 64 years. So I have experience, I have knowledge, I have skills. So any type of topic that your audience would like for us to talk about, feel free. Okay. Send it to Valerie.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So Felicia says, I thoroughly enjoyed the programs, the 5 W's. So I'm sure she's going to take that with her. That was really good. That was really good. And I appreciate you sharing all of that. And yes, I think that, audience, if you have any questions or topics that you're interested in talking about, please send them. Speaking of which, we have a special edition coming on Monday, October 14th. My friend and colleague Joyce Garrett, who is a veteran music educator, minister of music, and now author, will be with us on Monday as I interview her about her newly released book. And I'm so excited. Joyce has been a blessing to my life and has blessed so many people. And I think people are just going to love her testimony about her journey as a music educator. The book is called Excellence Without Excuse, a teacher's odyssey, a music teacher's odyssey. And I think, I think she has had an incredible music journey. And so I think people are going to enjoy that. So please join us on Monday at, I believe, 7:00. The flyer will go live tonight. So please invite your friends and family to join us for that show. And then later on, we're going to have Tony McFarland, who's going to come back and talk about Medicaid and Medicare, health insurance and life insurance. He's going to come back and talk about that. And then I'm hoping to bring back Gabe Polk, who talked about estate planning. It's coming close to Thanksgiving. We're coming close to Thanksgiving and Christmas. And the last time we talked, she encouraged people to start thinking about those hard conversations that need to be had with family members, like you need to get your stuff together.
Right.
And so we have a list of other guests that'll be coming up. And so the show will be starting up with some consistency. And so we also have someone who's going to come and talk about private lending as it relates to real estate, and some other topics that are coming forth. So everybody, we again thank you so much for joining us. Louwendy, the concept creator, let's call you the resident concept creator. And so thank you so much for joining us tonight. Everybody, again, I thank you for spending a moment of your life with Val D. Good night.
Thank you.